Hey everyone, almost happy holidays, and welcome to our what's going to be our final episode of the Saluki Sleuths for 2022. Caleb Hale, Anna Toomey is here. Anna, what are we talking about? We're introducing this live. You'll be able to watch this video here shortly, but what are we talking about today?
Yeah, Caleb, this is going to be a great episode because it's the Varsity Theater, and this is a place that Salukis have gone to for generations. I mean, the number of stories people have already shared as we've been promoting this, they're just so sweet. It's everything from movie premieres to first dates. People show up for their anniversaries. I don't have to tell you how special Varsity Theater is. And we're going to get to see what Varsity Theater looks like now and learn a lot about the past. But let's get started with that intro video.
People talk about the movies they saw here. I saw Empire Strikes Back here.
There would be double features.
This was the third movie theater.
These lights in the front lobby, they're original from the 1940s.
Yeah, we thought we were done with climbing, but it looked like we got to do a little bit of that anyway.
Right, that was unexpected.
So, I mean, So what's kind of the history behind Varsity? I think it's been here for a long time. I think anyone who's come through SIU in the last 50 years or so has probably been inside of it. So I mean, it was the movie theater downtown. So I'd have to say this is a structure or a place that really touched the lives of everyone who was here at SIU.
Absolutely. And for like the community of Carbondale as well. So Varsity Theater is going on 80 years, and there's been a lot of change in that time. So its grand opening was back in 1940. It's crazy to think about that. You're like, wow, it has been such a staple in Carbondale over that time. And obviously there's been lots of changes in entertainment, right? So the Varsity Theater has struggled with that. They've had to try to adapt to these multiplexes that come into town, the Showplace 8 in Carbondale. So Varsity has gone through adding more screens. They've kind of adapted their stages so they can do live music and theaters. So the Varsity is something where there's something for everyone, right? You're getting your plays, holiday movies. I know they're showing Elf this weekend. And that's something I think is really endearing about Varsity, and that makes it so special, is the range of entertainment. And you remember, Caleb, I mean, as we were going through that tour, they've kept pieces of history over the decades. It kind of shows how many decades it's survived. In that little clip we watched, I was talking about those lights in the lobby that were original from the 1940s. I mean, that's insane to believe that it has lasted that long, and how special. And I think that's what makes Varsity so unique in the experience of it, and why it's such a treasure to Carbondale. And I know you know about that, Caleb. I mean, I feel like this theater is something Carbondalians and people all over Southern Illinois talk about all the time.
Yeah, I mean, the Varsity was one of actually, three theaters that back when I was in college, high school and college, that you could go to see current release movies. That Varsity, they also had another theater called the Fox Eastgate, which is no longer there. It's where the Southern Illinois Gymnastics place is now. Then, of course, you had the AMC Theater across from there, which also the Showplace 8 in the mall, which it came and went in that time. The kind of the ironic thing about this, in one way or the other, despite the fact that the Varsity has kind of closed as movie house, but it's stood and it's kind of outlasted all of those other places, and the fact that it's transformed into really a place for the local art scene as well.
Exactly. Adaptation, we interviewed the president of their board, Billy Robbins, and he was talking about how much Varsity Theater has adapted. And I think that's another thing that makes it special. I mean, those guys hustle over there. They're always looking for new things to do. Obviously, this is a really community-focused place. It's usually volunteers that come in and help with renovations. Billy was talking about that. They're fundraising all the time, and it really is a place of the people. I really get that sense when we're in there, just because of all the memories and the fact that people have literally put their blood, sweat, and tears into renovating this place and trying to keep it competitive with everything else that's out there.
Right. And just, I know, I think last time we talked, I had a personal tie-in from my days back at the Southern Illinoisan, but Billy was a former colleague of mine at the Southern, the executive director of the Varsity Center, Kara Rachene. She was a former colleague. We even ran into another former colleague there beforehand who was just kind of helps with the building as well. So, good to see. I remember as a reporter doing stories about that theater and the project to work on preserving that. This theater and a theater down in my hometown of Anna, which was another Rogers Theater, which the Varsity originally opened as. The Rogers Theater there closed, I think it was probably around 1999 when that finally closed for the last time for good. But it didn't make it. It eventually had to be demolished. It couldn't be rejuvenated into anything. Varsity was a different story. And it's good to see because it's good to see not only from the people who've come through there, it's a place you can still walk through and kind of gin up those old memories, but it's a place where local artists can now thrive and perform.
Exactly. That's the really cool part of it. And so I think that, our alumni, students, SIU staff who watch this are going to enjoy getting that tour of what Varsity Theater looks like now, especially if you haven't been there in a few years or maybe decades. But we also sleuthed a lot in this episode. Not only in the tour, we go up into an attic space and we see the inside of the big Varsity Theater light that you can see from the outside driving down 51. You get that kind of feel of it and some cool spots, but we also dug up some really fascinating history, including some of what Varsity used to be. It had stores in it and stuff. And then also what was there before Varsity even existed. So our expert from SIU, Eric Jones, really dug into that and looked at census records from 1910 to figure out what was in that area. And that's super interesting. So I'll leave that for the episode, but we really dig deep into this and kind of paint a very broad picture of what Varsity has been and what was even there before it was ever a theater.
And people will see throughout pictures of the downtown area in a manner they probably haven't seen it in for decades at this point, because it has changed down there. Obviously, some would say not for the better in all cases, but that's the way downtown areas go around the country. But in the end, it's good to see that the Varsity is still standing there. It was interesting. This was the first topic off campus that we went to as well, which is it's good to point out, because not only are we doing these things as they relate to SIU, but I think many alumni feel as endeared to Carbondale as they do to SIU itself, because Carbondale was so much part of their experience here on the university. So it's good to know where these landmarks end up in the end. Exactly. So Anna, tell me where can we watch this?
So this is going to be, it's right now, it's already posted on our social media. You can go to our YouTube page and our Facebook page or our Twitter. It's already there. It's live. It's posted. And, folks, please watch and let us know your own experiences. I mentioned a little bit at the beginning that, as we've been promoting this episode, people have already shared some of their stories about, a woman was talking about her grandfather working at the Varsity in the 1950s. And it's just fascinating. So if you feel compelled to do so, please share. We read your comments. We'd love to hear these stories about the Varsity and how it's been in your family or your own personal experience.
Yeah, and we've gotten good feedback on all of the episodes we've done this year. Anna, how do you want to recap the first year that we've been doing this? Because we've been doing this since March now at this point. Not consistently every month, but we took a break over the summer. But we've looked into several things. Favorite moment of the year in doing this?
Right. Well, I've got my first 3 words to recap are so much fun. I have loved these. I mean, it's just a blast every time, every single one we do. I mean, we've done episodes that have been adventures into the steam tunnels or simply looking at something like the Paul and Virginia statue on campus. Every single one has been so fun and interesting to me. There's a moment from every episode I could pick, but if I had to pick one, I would say definitely the steam tunnels. That experience was amazing. That episode, if you haven't seen it yet, it's on our social media. Easiest way to find it is our YouTube. There's a Saluki Sleuths playlist there, but that was probably my favorite because of how much people talk about the steam tunnels. It really felt like we were really, I don't know, I felt like Indiana Jones or something going down into the steam tunnels. It was so much fun to see something like I've heard people talk about so often. You know, my father-in-law, remember, he was talking about stories from the steam tunnels in the 1960s. So I'm like, this was so cool to be able to go and see that.
Yeah.
What about you?
I like going up in. I got to say that Pulliam Clock Tower, that was kind of an interesting one, just because that was the most physically taxing one.
It was. You were up there with your camera too. So
oh yeah, I didn't quite expect the sheer climbs that it would take to get to the tippy top of that thing, but that definitely was a look into something that most people wouldn't get into.
Right.
So yeah, we've had fun this year doing that. Of course, we'll continue this into 2023, so you can look forward to more of those as well. Anna, anything else you want to say in closing? I just want to wish everyone happy holidays. Thanks for being with us this year, and I'll give you the last words.
And stay tuned. The spring season is going to be really good.
All right. Well, until next year, everyone, happy holidays and go Dogs.
Go Dogs.